And rest. So you're gonna go back to the single arm reaching. It's a little bit of a tuck, so think of relaxing your low back into the ground. And switch sides. A little bit of a tuck, relaxing your back into the ground, and then shoulder comes off the ground as you fully exhale. It's like being pulled away towards the ceiling. And take a break. You're gonna go back to the bridge. So go halfway up, roll your hips. So your hips should be slightly off the ground, low back, barely off the ground. And then when you're halfway there, give me that extra roll. So the back pockets get pulled down towards your knees, the front of your hips get pulled up towards your shoulders, but your hips don't really move in space. They just stay there. And then check with your knees. Knees are straight. And relax down. You're gonna go one more round with your breathing. Roll your hips just a little bit, relaxing your back into the ground. And then get your chin away from your chest, get your head to stay on the ground, nice and relaxed, and then start breathing. And rest. So back to the reach. This time you're gonna do both arms. So relax your low back into the ground. Get your chin away from your chest, keeping your head completely relaxed, and then reach up with both arms and hold in through the nose. Full breath out. And you're being pulled from the upper back. So your shoulder blades are being pulled away from the ground. Perfect. Just like the single arm. Each exhale, reach a little more. And relax. Back to the glute bridge hold. So set up, find your feet, relax your upper body, start rolling your hips by pushing down into your feet. You're gonna go about halfway up. Once you're halfway up, don't let your hips elevate anymore, but you're gonna give yourself that extra roll. So the front of your hips will be pulled towards your chest, and then the back pockets get pulled towards your heels, and then check for your knees. Your knees are straight, and then breathe. Nice. Perfect. You're really paying attention to your feet. Think because you're pushing into your feet, that's how you're able to hold yourself in that position. That's how you're able to hold your hips up in the air. Relax. Nice. And now we're going to go into a sideline reach. So you could use a pillow, or you can use your arm. So fetal position. Make sure you're going to check, make sure your hips, shoulders, or rib cage and head are all aligned. And then before you get started, put your hand down, your top hand down, pull the back pockets just like you did in the glute bridge. Think of pulling or rolling your hips. So back pockets go towards your knees. You might feel some glutes, you might not. And then from that position, give me one exhale. You're going to reach this top elbow forward. So think of your elbow and your ribs getting away from each other. And once you're there, you're going to pick your top hand up and reach. You'll notice I'm slightly reaching down. So I'm not holding my arm up here. My fingertips are barely off the ground, in through the nose. And each exhale, think of your ribs getting away from your hand by exhaling. If you get tired, you can bring the hand down. Each exhale, you reach a little more. Awesome. You're keeping the reach. Now start kind of working your way up towards the ceiling. You're not letting your shoulder come back though, so you're reaching, but then you're opening it up a little bit. So your hand should start elevating up towards the ceiling, but you're still keeping that constant reach. Right there, perfect. So Julia, you're good. Michael, go higher. Higher, right there. And rest. Go to the other side. So set up. Fetal position. You're going to look down, make sure your hips are aligned with your shoulder. Lay on your arm or a pillow. Head stays relaxed the whole entire time. And then top hand goes on the ground. Peel the back pockets towards your knees. So think of rolling your hips just like you did in glute bridge. And then your setup, first, you're going to set your elbow and your rib cage away from each other by an exhale. In through the nose. Full breath out. So think of this space getting bigger. And then keep it that way as you reach. So your shoulders should stay forward the whole time and hold. And then a few breaths in, you're just going to elevate your arm a little bit, but the shoulder position stays the same. You're not pulling it back, so you're not allowing it to retract. Way better. Nice. Like it. And rest. And now we're going to go into a short seated reach. So Michael, you might want to get like a stool or a pillow. Julia and Lacey, you all could probably do it just on the ground. The only thing here is what I don't want with people is that you're in this position and you're just feeling a lot of like pinching and tightness through the hip flexor area. So if you don't, you can do it on the ground. So you're going to go on your hips. Feet are going to be straight ahead. Nice. And then you're going to in through the nose. Without getting shorter, think of the space between your hands and your ribs or your chest getting further apart. So getting bigger without sinking down. And then in through the nose. Reach a little more. Good. Keep the shoulders forward, keep reaching. Lacey, bring your hands down just a hair. Good. And Julia, you are good there. And Michael, bring your hands down even more. Right there, kind of like, but keep the shoulders forward. So reach, 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 reach through your fingers. More, more, there. And relax. Awesome. Now you're gonna go on all fours, quadruped tucking. So hands underneath your shoulders. Go pretty wide with your fingers. You wanna push down into all 10 fingers. Unshrug your shoulders and then push away from the ground. So from this position, from my belly button up, nothing should move. So I'm just nice and stable here. And then exhale, back pockets get pulled up. Inhale, back pockets get pulled down. But I'm paying attention to the movements that I'm getting through my hips, but then I'm keeping my upper body still the whole entire time. So you're paying attention to that. Exhale, back pockets get pulled up. Inhale, back pockets get pulled down. Tuck the tailbone. Move your hips as much as you can, as much movement that it allows you to go through. And rest. You're gonna go back to the sideline reach. So set up, fetal position. And then check your hips. If you look down, your hips should be aligned with your shoulders. And then relax your head. The setup, putting the top hand down, peel the back pockets towards your knees. And then now the space between your elbow and your ribs get further apart. So it grows by reaching. And then keep the shoulder forward as you pick your arm up. Reach a little more. And then keep the reach just as your hand elevates. So you should definitely feel the muscles of your upper back working as you elevate your hand, but don't allow your shoulder blade to retract. Like it. Perfect, Julia, right there. And then Lacey, reach more. Keep going a little more. And then just bring your hand down towards your knees a little bit more. So yes, perfect. And switch sides. So check your hips first, then put the hand down on the ground. And then as you're exhaling, the space between your forearm and your ribs should get further apart, and keep that space further apart as you reach your hand forward. Full breath out, reach a little more, and then elevate your hand up towards the ceiling. You should feel upper back muscles working without letting your shoulder move. Nice. And rest. Back to the short seated reach. Same concept of the shoulders moving forward. So find your sit bones, give yourself a little bit of a tuck, reach your hands forward, making the space between your hands and your ribs further away from each other. Don't get shorter, and then keep the shoulders forward as you reach down. Reach more, Lacey. The shoulders forward. And rest. One more side lying. You're laying on your side. Peel the back pockets down, and then take your top hand, push it into the ground, and then set the starting position by bringing your ribs back as you fully exhale, elbow goes forward. Nice. And go ahead and add some movement to that. So you're here, hand goes forward, full breath out, inhale. As you elevate your hand, exhale, you're still keeping the reach forward the whole time. So where my fingers are pointing, I'm still reaching in that direction. So exhale, bring it back down. You can even go all the way down to the ground. Inhale, arm still stays forward. Inhale, back up. Next stage, relax. Exhale, back down. Like it, good job. And relax. Other side. So check your hips. Back pocket tuck. And reach your hand forward as much as you can. And then keep it forward. Exhale goes down to the ground. Inhale. Elevate towards the ground, but you're still reaching through your fingertips. And then exhale, you're still reaching forward all the way down to the ground. Full breath out. Hold. Inhale. Hand elevates towards the ceiling. And don't allow the shoulder blade to get pulled back. And relax. Back to the short seated reach. So find the sit bones. Tuck. Full breath out. And then reach down a little bit once you're there. Reach a little more, Julia. Yes, there you go. And rest. Back to all fours tucking. So 10 fingers, push into the ground, unshrug your shoulders first, and then use your hands to push you away. Instead of pulling your neck back, your hands are doing all of the work. From that position, nothing in the upper body moves. Exhale, pull the back pockets up. Inhale, pull the back pockets down. Move as much as you can through your hips. And rest. Awesome. Nice job. And then we'll go ahead and get started with the lesson since we got started late. But how was that?
Good.
How was the sideline thing?
It was cool. So hard.
Yeah, I just made it up. I never tried it until just now. So
it was so hard.
I'm gonna try it with a few people though. Like even if you have because I hate band pull aparts. I haven't done those in so long, like 6 years. But someone in sideline, especially for a wide infrasternal angle, and then even if they hold like 5 pounds, full breath out, and then you're going against gravity, so you are going to be able to load the body a little bit. But then you can control the ribcage position in that instead of having them flat on the back or standing. How'd that feel for you, Michael?
Yeah, I liked it. That's really going to open up the pec wall, yeah? That's going to give me some
pump
stretching.
handle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I've seen even Bill do some of like some chest fly variations too for pump handle. I haven't tried those with clients.
Yeah.
But I would say this could be like a lower threshold.
Yeah.
So today we're going to talk about exhale, reach, and tuck, and coaching it in the supine and quadruped position. So before we get started with that, tell me, like, what are we trying to accomplish when we're coaching those things to begin with? Like, what are we doing by, let's say, 90-90? Why are we coaching people to exhale, reach, and tuck?
Get the ribs down and get the core kind of pelvic floor and diaphragm working together.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Or get stacked.
Yep, get the stack position. And what does the stack position do? And I'm not, and let's go, like, we don't have to go anatomy, like just like global terms or big picture. What is the stack position doing for our people or yourself?
I would say get your core in a good position, right?
Yeah, it gets your rib cage in a certain position. And what is that certain position doing for people?
It's helping them use their muscles more effectively together. And like, I know we all don't like to say the word like neutral, but it gets you like kind of in the middle. So you're not at either movement extreme, like tons of anterior pelvic tilt or tons of posterior pelvic tilt. It gets the rib cage and pelvis working together so that everything else can work optimally together.
I like that. How can we say that in a way that doesn't make it like binary? Because like I agree with you. I don't like using the word neutral, but then so many times like, but I have no other words, so I'm gonna continue to say it.
Yeah. So at a PRI course one time, Dan Hoagland said something that really stuck with me. He said that like when we're doing powerlifting, stuff like that, when we're at the gym lifting really heavy or sprinting, whatever, we're Superman. And that's our, sympathetic. And then we want to live the rest of our lives as Clark Kent. And that's going to be more the stacked position. So you just want to be able to be Superman when you do certain things, but you also want to have the variability to be Clark Kent.
I like that.
So
I think that would.
I'm having trouble connecting to the internet.
Alexa,
take a look at the help section in your.
Oh, I thought that was a person.
Unplug her. Alexa and I have gotten very close during quarantine.
Lucy's new roommate.
Yeah, but she pretty much is. It's like, how long should I do chicken in the air fryer? And then the timer, I mean, she helps me with all my timers, but now it's getting to the point where I almost ask her for things she can't do. Like, Alexa, open the window. I ask her so many things.
In a couple years,
I like what you said. Huh?
In a couple years, I think they'll have Wi-Fi windows, but.
I think they already do. They have smart houses. So I like what you said there, Julia, and I think that would really resonate for someone who is already kind of like trainers that think they're high-level athletes and high-level athletes. Because you are right. It's what the strategies that they use and the positions that they use are extreme, and we don't want to live there. And those are more fight or flight. So when you're explaining it to them, that does kind of help resonate. And I used to do that with clients as well, but clients really never get there. And saying those things could possibly, like in their eyes, you have the idea, like the narrative of, extreme measures of this position, powerlifting, high level exercises. But from their perception, they might think just straining a little bit is what you're saying, or arching a little bit, and they're like, oh, I just went into that fight or flight. And I did notice that, like, giving people that narrative without my context, people probably start overthinking it. So one thing that I probably got it just by listening to Zach talk, and Michael, you'll probably agree with me, is the term that he uses when we're talking stack position. It's not really like a good position. I'm trying to get you in an optimal position. It's more, I'm trying to give you more access to motion that you don't have.
Okay.
And then that is such a really good way to say it, where people are not going to say, you're not telling them that the position that they're in is bad, just that the position that you're putting them in will allow them to have more access to motion that they didn't have to begin with. And then if you're a PT, so it will make sense to them because you do these exercises and then you recheck some stuff and they're like, oh, wow, that gave me more access to motion. But now they're not thinking like, well, is this how I'm supposed to do this all the time?
No, and that's really helpful because that happens and it's like, we don't want to harm people.
Yeah, and it still happens to me. I'm so careful with my words and access to motion, and then I hear something like, yeah, I was trying to put the dishes away and I was trying to like keep this position. I'm like, I need to undo that now, even though I didn't say good position, I didn't say bad like I used to, I didn't say neutral. All I said was access to position, and they took that session and made their own, like, okay, this is the
Right.
right or wrong way to do it. So I still catch myself like, okay, I have to undo that here soon, slowly.
Right.
And I've also learned I can't be like, no, you're wrong, don't do that. It's like I have to really think of like, okay, why did they even think that way, and slowly start undoing it over time.
Right.
So
like, but working on this stuff, like, because I took a client, you know Jake Dunn? He did Bill Hartman's intensive. Anyways, he just moved to Dallas. So I took a client to see him. It was just kind of a hard case. She had her first rib removed. So it's like a lot of stuff that, so anyways, we went and he did great stuff, gave her, very targeted breathing. But then like, she's like, well, what do I do when I'm sitting in my car? Like I think the way I explained it, and I don't know if this was right or wrong, but the more that you practice these moves, with an intent at home, the more it will carry over, into day-to-day life. You'll get stronger in those positions and you won't have to think, because she was concerned, like, well, like, what do I do when I'm walking and driving? Like, am I going to go back? So is that a good way to say it?
yeah, I like that. And then very kind of similar to what I say.
Yeah.
Clients will ask me like, should I think about this when I'm walking? Should I do it like this when I'm driving? And I say, look at these exercises more as giving you access to motion that you don't have. So instead of always thinking about these exercises, do those exercises before you do something. So if you're driving, especially like if they've gone to a PT and they got some pain relief by doing the exercises. So if the exercises, have you noticed, give you some pain relief, what you could do while you're driving is do those exercises like the seated exhaling, and then go back to driving without even thinking about it. Or if you get results with these exercises, instead of thinking about it when you're walking, just do your PT exercises before you walk, so that way you don't have to think about it when you walk. And I'm giving them that, like, you don't have to think about it when you walk. Without me telling them, don't overthink it. Don't do that, because that's going to be bad for you. So I'm just kind of giving them a different rule to follow, and hopefully they just follow along with that.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you pretty much said very, very similar to that. Cool. So the main three things, if I were to like pick three things that I always teach, is exhale, reach, and tuck. And the easiest position to teach people this is in the supine position. There are going to be some limitations by putting people in supine. And what we're doing, if we go with the exhaling first, what is the exhaling accomplishing?
Setting the rib cage.
Mm-hmm. And what's the rib cage doing when we're exhaling?
In the core.
What's the rib cage made out of?
It's contracting, right?
Yes. Ribs. So it's literally moving ribs. And if we move ribs, we're going to have the rest of the body kind of move along with it. So if we were to look at the body when it comes to getting more access to motion, if someone can't touch their toes because they don't have access to motion in their low back, then teaching someone to fully exhale, that can be one way to help give people more access to motion that they don't have. And so that fully exhaling, that's what we're doing, is we're just gaining more access throughout the rib cage, because if we get more motion throughout the rib cage, we'll get more motion in other areas when it comes to the testing that we're doing on the table or standing testing. So when we're teaching people how to fully exhale, we are just giving them the ability to move their rib cage a little better. So the exhaling and the infrasternal angle kind of come hand in hand. So the goal, when we check the infrasternal angle, what's the goal here?
Dynamic.
Yeah.
Dynamic. And so if it's not dynamic, would it be fair to say that we just don't have much mobility here? So that's what we're doing with the exhaling and the inhaling, is we're just trying to increase some more mobility throughout the rib cage, or access to motion that you don't have, getting these things to move. And when I'm telling a client that who gets skeptical or wants to know why, because some people don't care. Some people, I just say, this is the ab component. But some people want to take it deeper. So it's like, well, what's this doing? I'm like, well, we're just getting your ribs to move a little better. Because if we get the ribs to move a little better, we find the other areas in your body move a little better. And then that's where, when Julia, you go and check the shoulder for the first time, and I point it out. I'm like, did we touch your shoulder? They're like, no. I'm like, so that's what I was talking about, is if we can get some stuff around this area to move a little better, we always find that other areas in the body can move a little better. So with supine, the problem is the ribs are 360. So they go around your whole entire body. If I'm laying on a flat surface, and especially if I have a little bit of extra weight on me or extra muscle on me, do you think laying on a flat surface is going to be make the ribs harder to move?
Yeah.
Probably. And when we're teaching someone how to inhale, we want 360 expansion. Laying on a flat surface is probably going to impact someone's ability to breathe. So that's the thing to keep in mind when you're teaching someone in supine, is people might have a struggle doing it, but it's the easiest position to teach people in. So I always start in supine, even though I know it has all these certain limitations. Ideally, I mean, I could have someone in a squat, because now the whole entire rib cage is open to move and to expand, so to contract and expand. But so much easier to just teach in supine. So if you are seeing some issues there, just keep that in mind. It might be because they're laying on a flat surface, especially people who are really, really stiff. You might want to move them in different positions after you teach like the cues. So the way I teach it is I break it down. I used to, and I don't even know if it was like an ego thing. I would get someone in a perfect 90-90 by cueing them, like tuck here, do this, do that, and then like reach here, and they would be able to do it, and then they wouldn't be able to do it without me. But I train people, and I usually don't have people do it at home just because I'm not a PT. I don't give people homework. But how many people do you think were really competent in those exercises? Especially with like a lot of manual cues. It's like I would get them there and they're probably like, I have no idea how I got here, but I'll just stay here. So what I've done over the last probably 7 months, almost a year now, I have really broken down the 90-90 when I teach it to people. So I just give them like one cue at a time. And I really learned this when I went and took a dance class. Like I really wish the dance instructor would have just given me like step here and step back. Like step here, like let me get comfortable with this before you add the other 3, because he added 3 and I just completely lost it. So that's exactly what I'm doing with this. It's like step 1, step like reverse and then drive, and then reverse and drive. So what I'll do, I do an assessment and then I put them in 90-90 and I'll say, okay, so first we're gonna go over the ab component. So I don't say breathing, I say ab component. And then, so what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a breath in through your nose, and then I'll be standing like right here doing it, and you're gonna full breath out through your mouth. Get all that air out. And then I let them do that like 10 to 15 times. And I just add a little bit more towards that exhale. So a lot of the times people will go, I'm like, awesome, just open mouth, full breath out, keep exhaling. I don't cue the inhale. I don't say anything with nasal breathing. I don't say pause. I just first make sure that they practice the full exhale like 10, 15 times in a row. And so they'll sit there and do that and watch how that works. And if they're able to manage that, I'll say, that was perfect. That was really good. So now I want you to do the same thing, but I want you to pause at the end of the exhale, just a little bit, like 2 to 3 seconds. So look like this, in through the nose, full breath out, exhale, 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 hold, and then just breathe in however. So same thing, just hold that extra pause. So I let them practice that about 5 breaths. They're going through that. And about halfway, I check in on them and I say, are you starting to feel a little bit of abs at the end of that exhale? And then if they say no, I try to cue them to exhale even more. So like if they're like, no, not really, I'm like, okay, so try to go a little longer with the exhale. So then again, are you feeling a little bit of abs right now? And if they say yes, I'm like, okay, cool, pay attention to that. And I'll let them practice maybe five more breaths. And I was like, that was perfect. So now what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a same thing that you just did, take a breath in through your nose, full breath out, but instead of just relaxing as you breathe in, I want you to hold on to that tension that you mentioned. And this is the hardest part, so you might not get it. So I almost like give them that expectation that they might mess up here. So then they do it. If they nail it, if it looks okay, I'll continue to cue it. But if it just ruins the whole thing, because it does happen, they're like, I don't know what you want me to do. I'll laugh and I'm like, no, you're not going to get this today. This is the hardest part. Like, don't worry. And then I back off on that cue. But if they nail it, I will like hold on to that tension right here as they do it. So it's about half and half of people who get it and people who don't. But it does allow me to not jump ahead too much. Because if that person was fully exhaling and I asked, are you feeling a little bit of abs? And they're like, no. And I try to cue it a little more. Still no. I'm not going to go to that third step. I'm just going to leave it at that and just let them continue to practice that full exhale. As a trainer, I do have the advantage that I have people for longer. Like I can slow roll this. So I do see, like, as a PT, you don't have that much time. So you do want to like get that person to get it faster than me, because I have so much time. I'm probably going to train people for years. So I feel like I can milk the basics so much slower. So there are a lot of pros and cons, but it does allow me to check so I don't overwhelm that person. So that way breathing is never this weird thing. Like, I don't want to do that stuff because I was way too hard. I was able to almost keep it in the range that they can manage just by introducing it slow, and they don't think breathing is this weird thing that they were never able to do. So that is just introducing the exhaling. So how many exhales do you think that person has already gone through? It usually depends on the person. Like if they suck, it's extra. It's anywhere between 5 to 10 per section. So you got just the exhaling, 5 to 20 breaths. Then exhaling with the pause, 5 to 20 breaths. Exhaling with a pause and a tension, 5 to 10 breaths. And I'll say, perfect. That was the breathing component. And then now I connect the breathing with the abs. Instead of introducing breathing first, I said abs. And then I said, that's perfect. That's the breathing component. So now let's move on with the tucking. So the hamstrings and glutes. So what I want you to do, the person is right here, 90-90. Pretend their feet are right here. I say, what you're gonna do is you're gonna drag your feet down. These people are in a really weird position. And I don't know if you ever played Twister, but you're like in these weird positions and you have to move your left foot and you're like, I don't even know which my left foot, like where am I going? These people are the same. Like they don't know if down means pushing down that way, down this way, down towards me. So where I'm trying to get them to move, I'm like using my body, like you're gonna push down here. So they're laying on their back. And I'll say, I want you to push your feet down. Pretend the bench has wheels and you can't push it away from you. Every time. And then you're going to pick up your hips. That's what I say. Every time people do this. And I let that happen. I'm like, that's great. Because it gives them the idea of picking up the hips, at least. So they'll do that. And then I'll say, that was perfect. So now I want you to do the same thing, but I want you to keep your low back on the ground. So I don't want you to pick up so think of just rolling your hips. And then sometimes they do it, sometimes they don't. So if they continue to do that, I'll say that was better. And then I'll say, okay, this time, and I'll try another cue. Think of only your tailbone coming up. So think of rolling your hips just a little bit to barely come off the ground. And then that usually will do it. It's like by the third time. Sometimes that won't happen. You'll just continue to see that because they literally can't roll through their hips because they don't have access to any motion here. So if that's the case, I will back off the tucking and I'll say, okay, cool. So this time I don't want you to move your hips at all. I just want you to drag your feet down a little bit. That way I get at least some hamstring, but I'm not picking up at all. So that's kind of my four steps of that, or 2 to 4 steps. It's allow them to tuck a few times, and every time they come up too high, I'm like, that was good. This time, keep your low back on the ground. See if you can just roll. Usually it still doesn't happen. I'm like, that was really good. This time, think of only the tailbone coming up, and that usually gets the job done. If it's not happening at all, I just back off and then address it in a different position. But if they do get it, then I say on that last round, okay, so this time you're gonna go, but go very slow, and I'll tell you where to stop. So they're in this position, and they go very slow, and then I'll say pause right there, and then I'm standing over them, and I'm like, all right, don't let anything move. You got your hamstrings, and 5 breaths. And they should already know the 5 breaths because we've gone through it. And then in through the nose, full breath out, and then they rest, and they do that 2 or 3 sets of 5, or 3 sets of 3 to 5. And then I retest. So by the time that they get to the retesting, they have done so many reps that every single time I get a ton of change. And they were able to become competent in it. What I've noticed a lot of people do when they introduce this is they barely go through 2 to 3 rounds. The client probably got just a few quality breaths, and then they don't get that much change. And now it's like breathing, that was that weird thing that we did. But when you get a ton of change, now it's like, oh, breathing was that thing that got all that change on the table or made my squat feel better. So that is how I introduce exhaling and tucking. It's very slow every single time. And since we started doing that, it has made things so much easier for us because clients just get it so much faster. So questions on that part?
Do you start everybody in the 90-90 breathing, like even off whatever their assessment says? Is that just the position I usually pick just to start everybody?
I will teach it that way. I will go through the full exhale, the exhale with a pause. Then if I have a wide infrasternal angle, I will flip them over. Not always. So there's like 2, from what I see, is there's like 2 types of wide infrasternal angles. There's Michael's. So you can see Michael is very stiff. And if we lay him on his back, so a wide infrasternal angle is going to be wider from side to side. And if we lay someone on their back, they're already squished from side to side, and laying on someone on their back is just going to try to squish them even more. So they are going to have a harder time getting a full exhale. So with these people, if we flip them over on their side, they have an easier time getting more mobility through the rib cage. So if I have someone like Michael, I teach it in supine, and then I flip them over on their side. I just feel like if I start on their side, it's a weird position. Laying on their back, people have done a lot of ab exercises that way. So it's normal to be in that position. So once I teach that the breathing component, then I flip people over on their side. Some wide, and then there's a second wide infrasternal angles, and it's the people who maybe have a bigger frame, they've never exercised before, they're not stiff, there's just like no muscle activity, or I shouldn't say no, but when you have them exhale, you just don't see any tension. Those people I find that do well on their back. So as long as you're seeing things moving, as long as you're seeing the ab tension or the ribs coming down, they're probably okay laying on their back. And then you can also see it by seeing them tuck. a lot of people who are wide will struggle with the tucking. But what you could do is just back off the tucking in a 90-90 and just work on the exhaling more. So that would be the only times that I switch people's position depending on their infrasternal angle. But other than that, everybody goes through that same sequence. So questions or comments on that one?
And you present it as, okay, this is the ab component. You don't mention breathing.
No, if they were successful with it, I say at the end, okay, that was a breathing component of the exercise. And you'll be doing that a lot with the exercises because it really get your abs going.
Okay.
Or whatever they want.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll say ab component. Julia, thoughts or questions on that part?
Yeah, I think that's just helpful to hear how much time you spend on it because, like you said, there's a timeline with me. People don't want to see me. They want to get back to their life. And so we have a 45-minute eval. Obviously, things are more flexible now, but like maybe giving myself permission to not even do 90-90 in the first visit, or like we start it and I just see where they are and I don't rush to give them everything for home that first day. So they might just do 90-90 exhales at home. And I definitely don't do enough reps because I want to like give them stuff to do because there are certain expectations. So I think that's just helpful to like be thoughtful about spending more time on it and getting like 30, 40, 50 reps.
Yeah.
In the clinic.
Yeah, because you're better off. And I got to see with two different PTs, Sarah Martin and Zach Couples, both amazing PTs.
Right.
I got to see them on days that they didn't see them. So I got to see the homework, and that's not what Zach showed you. That's not what, I know Sarah didn't show you that exercise that way. Like back when a lot of people were doing a lot of shifting and like certain reaching. I mean, just the things people did, it wasn't good. And I know that that's not what they learned in the PT session. So I remember one time it was supposed to be a right arm reach with a left hip shift, and the client like went like this, like here. And that wasn't Sarah or Zach. That was another PT who did PRI, and I was seeing that client online. Like, that's what the PT showed you? Yeah, let me show you a different exercise. But I kept seeing it over and over again. When Zach started working with my clients, they would come in and do their exercise. That's what you've been doing at home? Okay. So I gave Zach that feedback. I was like, hey, I think you're giving my clients a little too much. And my clients know a lot of position. They're trained by me.
Right.
And even for my clients, the different reaching, the different shifting, the different turning, way too much. And then that's when I started just backing it off for myself. So I used to use the reaching in 90-90, but now when I teach 90-90, it's just the tucking, just the breathing, and that's all they have to focus on. And if maybe they did that really well, you would probably get a greater chance of them doing it at home, because it's just like that one thing.
Yeah, they do the strangest stuff. I can't. And I love them. But like one of them started doing 90-90 as a dead bug. And I was like, no, you have to have your feet on something.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, I think that's helpful.
It's interesting. I remember one time I knew I needed a vacation because I'm so patient with clients other than my family. And this one client that I had for 5 years, I was like, oh yeah, go do that exercise. And it was like a short seated shift with left arm reach. And she went and got on the massage table where her feet don't even like hit the ground, and like put the ball, and then she put a band around her knees. It was supposed to be a ball. And I caught myself like, how many times do I have to show you this? And I was like, I need a vacation. Like I almost yelled at my client for not getting it. But we don't have those issues anymore since we've slow rolled that process. So from a training perspective, what this looks like is this is a movement consultation one-on-one with me. And what we tell people, because we got two different people, we got the pain scared clients. So what we say there is this movement consultation is to figure out positions that you're successful in, that it feels good, so you're not feeling any pain. And then, so what we mean by successful is you feel confident in doing it, it feels comfortable, and then you're feeling all the muscles that we're asking you to feel. And that's what the session is. It's kind of like a discovery session of like, let's figure out what goes well with your body. If we are talking to someone who wants to train, who wants to lift, what we say is, what this session is just to figure out all the positions that you're successful in. And what we mean by that is that you're feeling challenged, you're feeling all the muscles working, like your abs, your glutes, your hamstrings. So that way you can feel all those muscles in those positions when you start lifting heavy. It's like the same session for both people. We just describe it a little differently depending on who we're working with. So why don't we go ahead and practice this, the exhaling and the tucking component. So what we'll do is I actually want, who wants to be the coach? So we need a coach, an observer, and a client. Julia, you want to be the coach? You said you'll be the client, Michael?
Yeah, I'll be the client.
Okay, perfect. Julia, you want to be the coach?
Sure.
Awesome. And then Lacey, you're the observer. So anything that you notice at the end, like what you would have done, or ask what we could have done differently. So Michael, just get in the 90-90 position with your feet on a chair. And then on the chat box, Julia, I'll write the steps.
How do you coach the pause? Like if they ask what it should feel like, are you holding your breath? Are you just like not breathing in?
Hold your air out.
Okay.
And don't breathe back in.
Okay.
And then sometimes that's where it stops. Sometimes you know you need to back off on the breathing and go more towards just general movements. When the client goes, so they have to do like 2 breaths in order to get a full exhale.
Yeah.
Or if they hold the air out and then they breathe back in real fast, I would just be like, okay, perfect. Just let's work on the exhaling part. And then so, exhale.
Okay. So Michael, I want you're in the perfect position. We are just going to work on a little bit of abs. So all I want you to do is I just want you to exhale for 5 seconds, and we're going to do 3 or 4 of those.
And then I'll be writing notes while you're going through that for things.
And Lucy, at this point, you're not usually saying like inhale through your nose, exhale through your mouth. You're just like letting them do what they do.
I say, and an inhale however you want. I will say nose though.
Okay. Nice job, Michael. What did you feel going on?
I got a lot of abs there.
Middle abs or more on the side?
On I would say middle.
Like right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some side, but mostly middle. Yeah.
So what I want you to do is we're going to do this for 8 seconds, but I don't want you to work as hard. I want you to try to stay relaxed in the middle if you're able. And you're just going to let the air come out a little more slowly.
Okay.
And then tilt your head back just a little. Great, thanks. Good. And so I'm probably not going to give him a pause because I feel like he's already kind of clenching a little bit in his abs more than I want him to. Is that the wrong thought process?
No, I like that. And then what I would do is maybe go, yeah, I would do that. And then instead of coaching the pause, I would go sideline with Michael, just because he is a wider infrasternal angle who's stiffer.
Okay.
And then just see if it looks different. So if Michael, could you roll over to us or towards us?
Let me just
And see if you notice a difference.
Am I okay?
Yeah, can you just rest your head down? Thank you. And then wherever you want your...
That would be helpful just so we can see. So keep your arm there.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see right, oh wait, you can't see you can see the tip of his rib cage, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so then, Michael, I want you to do the same thing. I just want you to inhale gently through your nose, however you want. And then you're going to just slowly exhale for 8 seconds through your mouth.
Nice. And then because he's wide, you can go purse lips, slow exhale.
Okay. So Michael, will you try just to gently press your lips together to make a smaller hole and then blow out through that 8 to 10 seconds. Just see what you can do.
I like that.
That looks really nice.
Yeah.
Feels different.
Good. So Michael, as you're doing that, do you feel your abs working at all?
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it feel different or similar to when you were on your back?
Better for me. Easier for me.
Where do you feel it working?
I'm getting more sides all the way around.
Okay. Do you feel more left or right or pretty similar?
Pretty similar.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm just wondering because you're lying on one side.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess a little more left here, but yeah, pretty similar.
Okay. Great. So then at this point, so he's feeling his abs. I still probably wouldn't give him a pause. I would just I like the purse lift. I think that looks so much better.
Mhm.
And then it might be kind of hard to teach him the tuck in this position. Or what do you think?
It depends on the person.
Yeah.
Yeah, but normally, yes, people struggle tucking in this position. And then let's pretend that you tried tucking in 90-90 and it just like his hips would not roll. And you've seen that. It's just like they can't roll at all. What could you do?
I would probably try them in quadruped or elbows quadruped and just see if they can rock a
Mhm.
little bit.
Yep, that's what I would do.
And then if they can't, then I would still give them a rock back because they need that expansion. And then next time, let's see if they have the ability to dissociate.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Yeah, so you're putting them passively there to see if they can even get there and get some access to that motion. And then that's exactly what I say, is if they ask me, they're like, oh, why are we doing this exercise here? Or why are we doing this exercise here? What I say was, well, if we can get you to expand back there, then that allows, or getting you access to motion into your low back allows your hips to move a lot better. So if they, not that I want them, if they do see it as a failure of like you trying to teach them 90-90 and then you trying to teach them there, at least you're giving them a solution. Because you're like, okay, so let's try this instead. And they're like, well, why can't I do that? They're like, well, when you don't have access to this motion, sometimes it can be really hard to move your hips. So let's do that first. So now at least they know that you're not saying, oh, you suck, you'll never be able to do this. You're almost giving them a solution without fear-mongering them into, like, your hips can't move. So that was good. A couple things. So in the beginning, you said 5 seconds of exhaling. Shoot more for about 8 to 10. Give them something to like shoot for that's more unrealistic. And then at the end of the first round of exhaling, you asked him, what did you feel going on? From what my experience is they don't know what's going on because they're so concerned about the cues.
Sure.
And almost every time, even when they're done doing 90-90, I'm like, did you feel hamstrings? And they're like, I don't know. Let me do it again, because I was so concerned about doing it the way you wanted me to. And then you ask them like where they felt it. Keep your questions like more general of, did you feel abs? And then that's it. Not like where you felt it, because then they're like, well, I don't know. Am I supposed to feel it a different one? Am I feeling it in the wrong one? So less questions.
Sure.
And let's see. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, because they're so concerned about the cues that they don't know what they feel. So that way they don't start to overthink it. Am I doing this wrong? This is weird. But other than that, that was good.
Okay.
Lacey, what did you notice? Any questions on that?
No, I thought it was pretty good. The only reason why I would maybe coach the pause is so that on the next inhale we get less rib flare and more inhale into the back of the sternum. But if they're not ready, then they're not ready. But that would be my only reason for adding that little part in. I've been struggling a little bit with that with some people. So that's, yeah.
Yeah, and then the cool thing about training is, let's say Michael was training with you, you can retrain later on. So it's almost like they do it wrong a little bit, but then once they're more competent with these cues, it's like, okay, Michael, it's what you've been doing, but let's do it this way instead.
Yeah.
For example, you're trying to get people to reach on all fours, but they just continue to do this. Well, it's not a big deal that they're too hunchy in the beginning. But a few weeks later, it's like, okay, Lucy, so you're going to get the reach the same, but this time, try to keep your mid-back flat right here and just push through your arms. Because by that time, they already have more awareness of their body. They're a little more confident in the gym. So it's almost like you're retraining them later on. So from a training perspective, even if they tense up too much on the inhale, that's okay, because you can address those things later on. And then, so Julia, for you, you could, if Michael was seeing you for treatment, then you can add some manual cues to help with that, with the dropping of the rib cage and teaching him how to relax into it. And I say that a lot with stiffer, wider infrasternal angles. Like, and they're getting in rock back, like relax into this position or relax into this exhaling. And that seems to work pretty well. Do you have any questions or comments?
Me or Michael?
Hmm?
Me or Michael?
You.
Oh, no, I think that's helpful. I like over intellectualize things a lot, and I think it makes it harder for me and makes it harder for my patients. So that's good feedback.
Cool. What about you, Michael?
So you present this ab component before the tucking.
Mm-hmm.
This happens first. Okay.
Yeah.
And why is that? You just have more success? Is that, what's the reasoning?
I used to do the tucking first.
Right.
I think, yeah, because last year I was teaching tucking first. I don't know why I made the switch.
Oh, okay.
When we were writing our onboarding, I just put the exhaling first.
Okay.
So with that said, there's some issues. Let's talk about the issues with people exhaling. They're going to tense up too much. And then with people who lift a lot, you're going to see the six-pack jump at you. So a way to address that is either they touch their own abs or I touch their abs. And the six-pack, like you literally can feel the linea alba when someone's exhaling. So I will literally put my fingers in there. And then when they're exhaling, I'm pushing into it and I'm like, relax, relax as they're exhaling. That seems to work really well. Mm-hmm. But the other thing that you're going to see too on the exhaling that I don't really address in the beginning because people are going to struggle with it is when they're fully exhaling, you're going to see that belly pooch. So they're fully exhaling and you're not going to see this drop. What I'll say is picture everything deflating. So think of everything dropping. Mm-hmm. If that doesn't get fixed by that, it could possibly be because I hadn't introduced the tuck component. Because if they're laying on their back and they haven't tucked their hips, that might hinder their ability to drop everything because they're so stuck here. Right. So that might be a problem that you'll see with the exhaling just because you haven't introduced the tuck. But as long as they're getting that full exhale with the pause and it doesn't look horrible, I think it looks pretty good. And then see if it looks better once you've introduced the tuck when you ask them to do the 5 breaths. The other thing that might happen too, especially if you're like dealing with people in pain or people who are very deconditioned, is by the end of it, sometimes they say, oh, now my back's sore, or my knees. That's like one of the biggest things is my knee's starting to hurt because we've done a lot. So I'll say, or I'll ask the whole time or towards the end. And most of the time they say towards the end. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, you've been there for a while, so we're done with this. And so now they don't demonize that move. Like, 99, you just hurt my knee. No, it's because you were there for like 30 minutes. Right. So come out of that, we're good. And at least that way they don't demonize that move. And then with the reaching, when I introduce the reaching, I introduce it in the 90-90 position and I don't cue the tuck. So I have separated the two. Once I introduce the reaching, I'm not really introducing it to create table change. I've already created all the table change I needed for that first day with the one set of 90-90, or that whole thing with 90-90. When I'm introducing the reaching, from a training perspective, I'm just seeing how successful they are with reaching. Because if I put someone in supine, and they're reaching and all they feel is upper traps, then I know I'm not going to put arm bar in their warm-up the next day. I know I'm not going to do a lot of dead bugs or supine reaching for them. So it's me kind of checking out how successful are they to reach just because we do so much in this position. So if this fails, if I'm cueing them to reach and they're like, yeah, I only feel it here, one thing is putting a pillow behind their head. That might help. If that fails, I go to rock back. And there is no reason why someone's more successful in one position than the other. Like, this is me literally trying things. So then I see how successful they are with reaching and rock back. And then the big test is, how do the upper traps feel? Sometimes this is what does it. This looks great. So when they come in, they're going to have rock back in their warm up. But sometimes with rock back, you need to elevate the shoulder, the elbows off the ground. Because with the reach, you need access to this motion. If you don't have access to that motion and you have to get all the way down to the ground, your only way of doing it is by hunching. So then you're asking them to shut this off. There's just no way they can do it in that position. So by elevating the shoulders, you're basically meeting them where they're at when it comes to access to this motion. So with rock back, I literally play around with like, okay, let's see, put a pillow here, how's that look? Put a pillow here, how's that look? And I'm just kind of trying to see what works well for that person. And then the next reaching is all fours, which honestly, I only do all fours for the tucking, for people who just can't tuck. I don't really care what the upper body looks like, but I just don't find people very successful on all fours in the beginning. They just feel too much neck.
Yeah.
It's a lot for them to hold themselves up there. But I also work with clients who don't want to lift more than 3 to 5 pounds because they think they can't, or they literally can't because they're so deconditioned. So be asking them to reach, and now they have to hold their head and then their ribs that weigh more than 5 pounds. This is hard for people.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of arm bars, 3, 5, 8 pounds. So to gain some strength in the upper body so then they can hold themselves in the quadruped position. And then that's how I address the reaching. So when they come in for their first session, we have a program that they feel successful in. They don't get so overwhelmed. I don't have a bunch of stuff that they fail at. And then the other thing that I check too is glute bridge, because a lot of people can't do tucking in the hook line position. They really struggle. So I see how well they do that. And if they can't do it, I'm not going to put it in their warm up. And I think that's where I failed in the past, is I would give people so many things that they struggled with and they would get overwhelmed. And it's like, I really don't like this. So I try to give that nice balance. Or if I have someone who just sucked at all of it, like just they couldn't even get an exhale, by the time they come back and they think this is going to suck because last session sucked, we already have a program that meets them more where they're at. It's like the only breathing that they have is quadruped tucking. And then with them, we do more like sled pushing and bear crawls, carries, ropes, and stuff like that. And I don't overwhelm them with a bunch of breathing things. Cool. Questions, comments on that one with the reaching?
I think it's just helpful to see the things in isolation and like know people don't have to be able to do everything all at once.
Yeah. It's helped a lot. Cool. Well, that is the lesson for today. Exhale, reach, and tuck in the supine position. And then this really carries over to all the other exercises. And even that's some of the stuff. And so next week, I was going to talk about pain, but we'll continue to talk about this because it's more of like the onboarding. The other stuff that I noticed too in my movement consultation is how well does a person take cues, and I write that down. Like, are they able to handle more than one? And if they can't handle more than one, we have that in our observation list. Like, Julia was not able to handle more than one. So now if Dave trains them or Sierra trains them, she knows to not give that person more than one cue. And then the other thing that we write on there is how well they were able to transfer one cue to one exercise and then the other. Because some people can get it. Some people, I have them do 90-90, I have them do glute bridge, and then when I show them half kneeling, I say that same tuck that you just did, do it here. And some people catch on, and then some people are like, what do you mean? what same tuck. So then I have to like re-show them how to tuck. So I write that on there. So now if Dave trains that person, or Sierra trains that person, or if I train that person, I remember that they don't do a good job at transferring over from one exercise to the other. So I know that I have to re-show them every single time. The other thing that we write on there as well is, because I will have them go through it like as a circuit. Once I do 90-90, I'll do like rock back, maybe arm bar and half kneeling. I'm like, let's go through that 3 times. The other thing that I write down there is, do they remember the exercises that they did in a circuit? Because some people, I show them 3 things, and then I'll say, go back to rock back. And they're like, what was that? I don't remember. Some people literally need to be shown every single time they go through it. It's like they already went through 1 round, and they're like, now what? I'm like, now you're going to go back to rock back. And I write that on there as well. So when they come in the next time, Dave and Sierra know that they just have to show that person for just a second what that exercise is. So that way we don't add the feeling of them being overwhelmed and like I felt like an idiot the whole time. Like some people do need that just 1 second of reminder of like laying on your back with the weight up. Cool. So next week, we're going to go through the other moves that I look at in the onboarding that helps me write the program for their first day.
Okay.
Great.
And then I'll add a link. Oh, so what happened with the link, Michael? I guess last week was the last week of the
Oh.
and I didn't even realize it.
Oh, okay.
Like, no one signed up. That's weird.
And so do we just use this link again, or should we sign up again in your Instagram?
I'm going to make I think what I can do is go to the same meeting and extend it. So it should be the same link as last week, because that's what I did last time. This is the second time I've done this.
Yeah, so I don't get am I supposed to get an email every week, or I just use the email I got like initially like a month or 2 ago?
The way I had it set up was you have 2 options. You sign up for 1 week and you're signed up for the whole thing.
Okay.
Or you have to register every week, and that's how I have it set up. But I guess you could go back to the same link and join the thing.
Yeah, I think that's what I've been doing. So I'll sign up every week instead of just clicking on the.
To me, it doesn't matter. No,
Okay.
as long as you're able to get through the thing.
Okay.
The only thing that sucks about, but then I have your email and I know that you're coming. If like something happens, like let's say I can't do it, I don't have
Right.
your email in the roster to like, hey, I can't do it, I'm running late or whatever.
Yeah. So it's easy to click it, so I can do that.
Cool.
Okay.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, you
Thanks so
all
much,
did great.
Lucy.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good Sunday.
Yeah,
You
you
too.
too. Enjoy. That was awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.